Welcome back. We will dive deeper into the issue of land degradation now. Perhaps you wonder what land degradation is exactly about, or why you should bother at all. Well, you can be sure of one thing: there is an urgency to this. We need to scale up and to speed up our efforts to protect and restore landscapes all over the world. In that way, we can contribute to healthy ecosystems and thriving communities. I will now introduce you to some basic features of land degradation. After watching this video, you will be able to identify the main causes of land degradation and to explain why it is important to prevent land degradation and reverse it by land restoration. Healthy landscapes and water systems are essential if we are to secure the livelihoods and the well-being of future generations and our environment. Healthy landscapes are needed for food, fiber, fuel and water, and consequently long-term sustainable economic growth and social stability. Land degradation, on the other hand, is interlinked with major global environmental themes like climate change, food and water security, biodiversity decline, and overall loss of ecosystem functions and services. These larger themes directly influence ongoing shifts in human well-being, security, poverty, and migration. Land degradation is a worldwide phenomenon that refers to any reduction or loss in the biological or economic productive capacity of the land. Land degradation is caused by human activities and exacerbated by natural processes. Globally, about 25% of usable land is either highly degraded or undergoing high rates of degradation. Most studies about land degradation focus on soil erosion and the depletion or loss of soil nutrients related to that. On a global scale, the annual loss of 75 billion tons of soil from arable land has been estimated to cost the world about $400 billion per year. An additional 12 million hectares, roughly the size of South Africa, are subject to further degradation every year. On screen, you can see a map of the world representing soil degradation from the WWF's Living Planet report. Global assessments indicate that the degrading areas are mainly in Africa, especially south of the equator, in Southeast Asia and southern China, northern and central Australia, the Pampas in Latin America, and the temperate and boreal forests in Siberia and North America. However, problems are comparable in the Mediterranean basin. It is estimated that 10 million hectares in Spain alone are degraded, 1/5 of the country's territory. Degradation of land is mainly caused by land use changes that result in declining functioning of ecosystems and decreasing soil quality. This includes biodiversity loss, erosion, salinization, loss of soil fertility by depletion of nutrients and organic matter, soil pollution, and desertification. The economic reasons for these processes are complex and are linked to the particular characteristics of each region. The patterns are therefore different in the various regions, but the causes of land degradation have not changed much over time. On a global basis, it is caused primarily by the following land use and management practices. As you can see from the chart, the three main processes are overgrazing, deforestation, and monocultures that lead to misuse of fertilizers and chemicals. These three processes have major and similar contributions to land degradation, while industrialization plays a significant role as well. To give you a better understanding of these processes, watch this clip of the Economics of Land Degradation initiative about soil degradation and the value of soil.
The value of soil. Soil is wonderful. Well, of course, we live on it. And if it is fertile, it can produce marvelous things. Fertile soil puts food on our plate, but the number of plates is growing, and more meat ends up on these plates. And part of what we previously put on our plates, we now put into our petrol tanks. This again requires more fertile soil. Productive land is becoming scarce. In 1960, there was still almost half a hectare of farmland for every person on Earth. In 2020, there will be only around a third of that left. Consequently, even unsuitable land is being turned into farmland. No wonder land grabbing is on the rise. Fertile soil is precious, but instead of looking after it, we try to extract the maximum yield from it. But overusing land or cultivating unsuitable land leads to soil degradation. We need healthy soil to produce crops and timber and store and purify water. Soil provides us and our environment with important ecosystem services. Degraded soil makes us vulnerable. Unsustainable land management is sometimes the result of ignorance, and it sometimes results from poverty, where land users have no other choice. Land degradation is driven by things like cutting down forests, overgrazing, monoculture, salination, overuse of fertilizers and chemicals, or farming on sloping ground leading to soil erosion. Not to forget climate change, which alters the drought and rain patterns. But not only does climate change contribute to soil degradation also worsens climate change because degraded soil can store less carbon. But why does all of this matter so much? Well, because it takes 2,000 years to generate about 10 centimeters of topsoil. That is a long time. Soil is a practically non-renewable resource whose overexploitation is costing us dearly. For example, Niger loses approximately 8% of its gross domestic product to overgrazing and excessive salinity in rice paddy fields. Solving these problems through sustainable land management would save 2/3 of this money. Globally, soil degradation is an expensive business. Already it costs every person on Earth $70 each year, which in total is about $490 billion. To this, one needs to add the indirect costs of environmental and humanitarian disasters, such as water shortages, yield shortfalls, or dust storms. The consequence is damage to health, forced migration, famine, and eventually conflict. But how can we prevent this? First of all, it is very difficult to take all these possible consequences into account in planning processes because it is so hard to recognize the true costs of our inaction. With the right figures, we could make the right decisions. We have to include the value of the soil services and the cost of land degradation into our calculation. Then it becomes obvious that using soils in the way that most of us do today is simply not economically viable in the long run. To solve this problem, we set up the Economics of Land Degradation Initiative, ELD. We want to find out more about these actual costs by bringing together scientists, decision makers in politics and industry, and local land users, and we want to take a global approach. How high are the costs of inaction? What are the potential benefits of adopting sustainable land management practices? What needs to be done? Land degradation has to stop. Knowledge about the costs must be passed on and become part of the decision-making processes. Sustainable land management isn't free, but in the long term it is the much cheaper option. It is the only way to preserve one of mankind's most precious assets, the wonderful, fertile soil.
I trust this clip helped you to reflect some more on the value of soil, the driving forces of land degradation, and its environmental, social and economic consequences. Preventing and reversing soil and land degradation has multiple benefits for ecosystems, economy and society. Sustainable land management is needed to maintain or improve soil quality. ecological restoration is required to restore the quality of soil and water systems. Landscape restoration may be defined as turning barren or degraded areas of land into healthy, fertile, working landscapes where local communities, ecosystems and other stakeholders can cohabit sustainably. This makes clear that landscape restoration takes a holistic perspective. It describes the process to both restore the ecological functions of a landscape and revitalize the social and economic functions. A restored landscape can accommodate a mosaic of land uses such as agriculture, protected nature reserves, connecting ecological zones, regenerating forests, well-managed plantations and combined agricultural and forestry systems called agroforestry. Restoration must complement and enhance food production and not cause natural forests to be converted into plantations. Properly designed restoration initiatives could bring benefits for ecosystem functions, biodiversity and climate, while also improving people's lives. The World Resources Institute has made an atlas of forest and landscape restoration opportunities. This interactive map gives an interesting overview of the possibilities for forest and landscape restoration opportunities worldwide. In addition, it displays forest conditions and current forest coverage. The map shows that at least 2 billion hectares of the world's deforested and degraded lands contain opportunities for restoration. The atlas provides a global overview of these opportunities. It indicates where a more detailed analysis at a national or local scale is called for in order to select the most promising local restoration projects. In this video, we addressed land degradation, its causes, its scale, and its adverse effects. The need for landscape restoration was illustrated, and you have been challenged to explore the potential for restoration in your own area. In the next video, I will introduce you to the concept of land degradation neutrality and the goal of a land degradation neutral world. Stay tuned!